what I wanted to ask is just so there's a very interesting incident that you relate in the book where you guys were out. I think a friend of yours was interested in some girl, and the girl actually had a boyfriend or
Yeah,
Nikki
yeah,
inside.
it was
so
me.
on.
It wasn't the
Yes.
friend. It was me.
I phela ngizama ukuku- so the situation did escalate, and you say there was no reason for that situation to escalate as it did. It all happened because we were a bunch of guys who believed that being a man goes hand in hand with aggression, violence, and even firearms. In fact, a former schoolmate had, on a different an occasion, been shot at the same nightclub and was left fighting for his life while another person died, a victim of the shooting. This is the mentality that needs changing. This is why what handling something like a man in the unhealthy old fashioned sense needs to change. Now, if I look at that anecdotally and I look at GBV violence in general, why do you think we're so angry and prone to violence, right? It's almost like it's a it's an inflection point of any kind of threat or being undermined or someone is stepping on your turf.
Yeah. So the one thing that we don't talk about, and I think it's because people say we're deflecting, but we're a product of a very violent society under apartheid.
Correct.
That's when the seeds of violence were planted, and so we might be living under democracy, but we are now reaping the fruit of the violence, because violence was every day in the townships, in our communities. So what then happens is our society has not let go of that violence. And that violence, again, was perpetrated against men
Right.
by other men. Right,
Right.
The Boere police were men, and what that violence did is that it would then make black men feel lesser than,
Right.
and then they'd want to prove themselves
Right.
with violence, and that violence we've all just inherited it from there, and it continues. So it's an inherited thing, which means at the same time it can be broken.
Right.
You know, it doesn't have to be. And I think a lot of the times we think it has to be. It doesn't have to be. I mean, I've been in situations where there was the violence option and there was another option. And it's up to you which option you take. But also the environment that you are in. Right? If you are in a particular environment where violence is the currency, then that's how you're going to act. And I also think it's important to remove yourself, if you are able to, from certain situations and certain communities. If you are going to lag up at, I mean, I have no issue with people who leave ICAS, because when is like, here, this is not working for me, and they move. I understand that. Where you're just like, I want to go build a different life. There's also the option, though, of staying and working to help improve your community, because that's also quite key. So moving away and leaving that community is one option, but there's another option of staying and working with the community to break that chain, because it is a chain, and until we break it, it's going to continue. But it is an inherited thing. Our society was extremely violent, and just because we voted in 1994 doesn't mean a lot of the things that come out of that society are gone.
Yeah. Now, on the issue of violence, I think we've seen in the last couple of years, obviously, because of GBV and how unsafe women feel around us, the rise of the hashtag Men Are Trash movement. And I think you wrote something that's quite profound, because when we say hashtag Men Are Trash, the default position for a lot of guys is to be defensive and say not all men. So Melusi says, here's the thing, our struggle is not separate from the struggles of black women who shout men are trash and other things that get under our skin. We want the same thing, even though it feels like they're out to get us. The thing is, they can be nasty, mean, and I almost said brutal, but brutal would not be right, because that is what we do to them. We brutalize them while they just piss us off with their words. Some of these words cut really deep, trust me, I know. Things have been said to me that brought me to fucking tears and left me shaken, but I'm still here, able to work through that pain, rage, and humiliation, because even though words cut deep, they don't end a life. But stab wounds do, gunshots do, iron rods to the head do. The things women say can be, I almost said savage, but that wouldn't be right because that's how we are when we brutalize them. Savage is burning someone, raping someone, chopping them to pieces. That's savage. What we have to understand is that both men and women want the same thing, a society in which no one feels the need to claim men are trash. The reason we don't like the way women express themselves is because we refuse to see the world from their perspective. They are angry, terrified, and tired. They're tired of tiptoeing around us. They are done. But that does not mean they are enemies. They just don't understand why their brothers, husbands, boyfriends, fuckmates, neighbors, fathers, uncles, friends, employers, employees, and various other men in their lives continue to harm them while other men just look on and don't do or say anything. We can't expect them to nurse our feelings. So my question to you, based on this passage with men are trash, is just, is there anything you want to add to that? Do you still think that that's still a relevant message in terms of what you're seeing with how we are responding to the scourge of GBV and all of that kind of stuff?
Nothing has changed.
Yeah. Wow.
Nothing has changed. I mean, every day you're still opening.
Yeah.
But you see, the thing, though, that no one is talking about when it comes to GBV is that the conversation is broader than GBV. The conversation is male violence. Right? If you look, as black men, we kill each other at a much higher number than we. The only difference is that with GBV, it's someone that you live with, it's someone that you trust. That's the thing. But the issue is male violence.
Right.
We are violent. We are violent towards each other. We're violent towards women, and we're violent towards children. And until male violence is dealt with, GBV won't be dealt with. So
that's a fair point.
For me, when I look at these movements that isolate GBV, they're not going to get it anyway. They're not going to win because that's a symptom. There's a bigger issue at play. So if I can hit the brother here, why am I not going to hit my wife? Why am I not going to hit my sister? Do you know what I mean? So as long as GBV is isolated, we are not going to win. There's a bigger issue. We need to get to, as you had asked, why are men like this? Not why are men like this in relation to women. And I think also that the GBV conversation also clouds and makes guys shut down. Because what then happens, it seems as if society or whoever is asking those questions only cares about women. Not asking how did we get here as men? What is happening with the men of our society? How can we help our men get to a better place? That's the conversation for me that I'm interested in, because that conversation affects everything else, including GBV.
Yeah. Melusi, thank you so much for, first of all, taking the time and effort to write this book to us men. And I think one of the questions in closing that I wanted to ask is, since the time you've written this book and you reflect back and you look at the state of where we are as men, what would be the one thing that you say, or number of things that you would say still maybe scares you about black men, and what are some of the things that actually inspires you and says, we're going to be all right?
Look, I think what scares me is the state of the country's economy, and the pressure that it's put everyone under, but the pressure that it's put black people under, it's quite immense, and the pressure that it has put black men under, because society still expects us to provide. So, like I said, you and I can sit here and say we are redefining manhood. There's still expectations, right? And also another thing that bothers me, that worries me, is there are pockets of people that seem to genuinely despise women, right? And you see it in social media, where they attack these young women because they call them gold diggers. Some of it is quite intense, and I see where it's coming from, because these young women have an asset that men want, and so they find themselves in situations where they want certain things, and they use that asset to get the things that they want. And if you can't give them those things, they have no interest in you, and that is creating bitter young men, right? And I talk about this in the book. Certain women will not want you. How do you fortify yourself accepting rejection? And I see pockets of bitterness, in this age of social media, where these women are flaunting even some of them these fake lives, and it's not their fault. They're doing whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
When as a young man, you don't have the same asset to use to find yourself uhamba ngama Range Rover.
Yeah.
But work on yourself.
Yeah.
And in fact, this social media thing is very dangerous in the context of a country with such inequality as ours, because you have people who have these amazing lives and they show them off, and some of those people are black and they show off those lives, and then you have other people who are looking at this and going, why don't I have this, and they just get bitter and bitter and bitter. And so for me, if I was in government or I had any say, the one thing I would make free is counseling. I would subsidize counseling because it is needed. South Africa is a very hard place and people are taking strain. So for me, I am worrying about some of the attitudes that black men are taking, even towards foreigners and all of that, because it's just out of frustration. And in the absence of being able to change our economic situation, we need to work on ourselves to say, Gunje, how do I fortify myself against the reality that I face? Yeah. And then things that give me hope, I see more talking. These conversations seem to be coming up way more often. I mean, I even observe on social media, because I spend quite a bit of time on social media, and I use it just to observe people and what people are doing. And I'm seeing less and less of the gender wars. There was a time when they were hectic. They were hectic. But does that mean things are better in reality? I don't know. I'm hoping so. But I don't know. But yes, in different pockets, I'm seeing WhatsApp groups pop up where it's men talking to men, Facebook groups. I'm seeing guys going off on retreats to talk. So that's giving me hope.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Guys, shameless plug. Get Melusi's book, available in all bookstores. I got mine online at a reputable online retailer. Definitely worth a read. And leave any likes, comments, and stuff in the description below. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Melusi.
And I've just finished writing my children's book. I've just written a children's book.
Perfect.
It's with the editor now. It's going to be published within the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
It's called Gogo Magic and Her Magic Food Truck.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So ngiyabhala.
No. We'll keep reading the content you put out there.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me.
All right.
Cool, man.
Sharp.